And if you don't blip the throttle, that means you have to downshift like this, and it upsets the car. I darn near wrecked an 80s V8 Camaro by doing that. No male ever that has set foot on planet Earth makes love as well as I do. What's up, people? So today is a normal day. I'm gonna drive home and talk about shifting. How not to suck driving a manual transmission. I know this is old hack to a lot of people, and I think most guys are like, I'm amazing at driving. I'm also the best fisherman in the world. I shoot guns brilliantly, and no male ever that has set foot on planet Earth makes love as well as I do. Yeah, it's probably not the case. So, let's talk about shifting gears, because I've never found anything or anybody, good reference, that can actually help a young person get going, and just some basic little tips to not suck. Because there's so many different kinds of cars and so many different kinds of manual transmissions, but they all have certain things in common that if you understand the basic mentality behind them, you're probably gonna be a pretty good driver. There's also some techniques that you can use in some cars and maybe not use as well as in others. And then how, when, and why. I don't even know if you're gonna be able to see me because the sun is right there, which works great for doing these videos. All right, so one of the best tips is when you have it first and you're just sitting it here in neutral, you don't have to like rev the crap out of it to get going. Any car, you want to use the least amount of RPM smoothly to get the clutch engaged and pull away at the rate that you want. So what I'm saying is, your objective is to get the clutch pedal out and the clutch disc fully engaged to where it is not slipping as quickly as possible. Because the more the clutch disc slips, the more you're wearing it. So when you're pulling away from a stoplight, you can use a little bit more RPMs, a little bit more power where that initial torque is to get it going, but it's always a balance to slip the clutch the least when taking off. So that was just a real ginger takeoff. Now, I'm talking about a start where you're not effectively letting the clutch out fast enough that you start then spinning the tires on the pavement, if that makes sense. And of course, if you want to take off faster, like you're ready to do a whole shot, you're probably going to have your RPMs up a little bit. There's not really a rule of thumb, it's a feel, because there's lots of motors that rev differently than others. You know, the Viper motor, you're only using like 5,000 RPMs of it, but there's other edges out there that rev at like 8,000 or 9,000 RPMs. And there's cars that make more and less torque than others. So if you're driving a Corvette or a Viper, you need less RPMs to do the same sort of thing. There's also the aspects come into it. A lot of modern cars, I think the new Mini Coopers are really bad about this. They've got super heavy flywheels, and for the motor size, in my opinion, as well as things for emissions, so they're not very snappy on the rev. And it's also done like that, so people who aren't very smooth with shifting or taking off have a little bit more inertia that can help you take off. So I just want to say that when young people are getting going, just starting off with driving stick, you need to ensure that you're not going to stall it, and you can pull away and drive in traffic reasonably. But when you start working on your talent, use the least amount of RPMs, the least amount of effectively throttle, and the least amount of clutch slipping that you need to pull away in any given situation. So keep that in mind as a rule of thumb. The other thing about shifting gears is, I noticed this from older generation people that grew up driving big cars and muscle cars in the 50s and 60s. Those people generally beat the crap out of transmissions because, you know, they were tough. You know, you run like a Muncie M22 Rock Crusher or something like that, especially if it's got a short shift kit like a Hurston or something, and you physically rip those things hard, right? And you know, in drag racing back in the day, and that's what everybody did with that stuff. Boy, this is the weirdest intersection I've about ever been in. It makes literally no sense. Anyway, they would just rip the gears because you kind of had to be sort of ham-fisted and harsh with them. And then back in the old day when you were drag racing and stuff, they just keep their foot on the power rip it hardcore in the next gear without like letting off the throttle, and you get that extra boost because effectively you're banging the clutch every time you shift it, and would help you in a drag race. But, and heck, I think even like the Beach Boys or Jan and Dean were singing like Power Shift Here I Come, but that doesn't work well in modern cars. That doesn't work well in European cars. And if I do it in this 944, not only will it make me have the worst cringe fest ever, I'm gonna just trash the inside of the clutch because they're not made for that. So I bring that up because on the upshift and downshifts, young people need to work on matching the RPMs, or rev matching. Now, I say that, use your brain and logic when you hear it. A lot of people, when they hear rev match, that means a whole nother connotation. So let's just start basic. I'm cruising in 5th gear right now. I'm at 2,200 RPMs. And by the way, I double clutch the downshifts. I just got accustomed to it. So don't pay any attention to that. You can single clutch it. But I'm gonna get it into neutral, rev it to the next gear range, and then put it in. And that way, when I let out the clutch, it's dead smooth. If I just downshift, and it's gonna make me cringe, if I just push in the clutch, stick it in the next gear, let it out, it slows down, and then you go, that's not good driving. I mean, you're basically just wearing all of your drive line like this, and you're slowing it down. So, you know, you blip the throttle, you feel where the next gear is, and then you snick it in, and you're also being nicer to the synchros. So, once more, you blip it, and then put it in, okay? You don't just blip it and rip it in, right? Because you're giving the motor a moment to get up. When I double clutch it, I'm letting the clutch out in neutral, which then makes all the gears of the transmission spin to the speed of the engine and to the speed you're going with the wheels. So the purpose of that, and then rev matching the downshift like that, or when you're braking what would be called toe heel, which I'll do in a moment, is so that not only on that downshift I just did, you're matching the RPMs. Oh, I do not want to get behind that guy. You're matching the RPMs for the next gear, so when you let out the clutch, you're not slipping the clutch, you're not upsetting the balance of the car, and you're also more in the power band so you can immediately accelerate and go. Now, the purpose of the double clutch is something that I can throw in there. It's just more footwork on the left, okay? And matching it correctly over here. When you let out the clutch, just for that moment, you just bump the clutch like that in neutral, and the RPM's at the right spot, you have already synchronized all the speeds of the gears, so that when you go to stick it in the next gear, the synchro doesn't have to do hardly any work. Or if you're driving like a dog box racing transmission, like what's in the Genius Garage IMSA Corvette, like an old Can-Am car, things like that, you can perfectly stick it in. Now, that being said, if you've got a dog box where there's no synchronizers, it's sort of like a motorcycle, you don't even actually need to use the clutch. So different techniques you use at different times, depending on one, how good you are, two, what the transmission actually wants, what the engine is good for, and how nice you're being to the equipment. So I, generally speaking, will always go to being nice to equipment. I've never destroyed a clutch in my entire life. And I've never worn out synchros in my entire life, and I don't want to, because both of those things are expensive and time-consuming to fix. If it's a shifter cart, if it's a bike, if you're racing, it's a different thing. But when I said I double clutch the downshifts, I've got time to double the clutch the downshifts in some of those things, but you're moving your feet really fast. So it's a lot of effort to theoretically be nicer to your car. Now, that being said, I'm getting way tangent. On the GTP car that I used to drive, it had an IndyCar transaxle in it with Hewland gears, which were straight cut and dog box. I could brake hard enough and fast enough in that thing. I would literally right foot brake, stomp on it, and you'd be slowing down so quickly that I could single clutch the downshift and just snick it in the next gear so quickly that the amount of bump to the drive lane was so little, because the car just slowed down so fast. I could just go boom, 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 and it didn't care. It didn't upset the car. So in that circumstance, I just adjusted my driving technique. Naturally, if you're upshifting, you get off the throttle, and it's all about timing. So I'll slow down a little bit here. I'm actually toe heel downshifting while I'm braking a little. You know, I have my foot off the clutch. See this? You don't want to ride the clutch or be anywhere near it. And watch, I can shift with one finger perfectly quickly, okay? I got nothing to prove out here. I'm just sporting around, having a good time. And you just be smooth. There's no reason to be jamming things like an idiot, okay? Sure, if I was racing or if I really wanted to go for it, I would shift faster. Like I'll give a fast shift in the 5th. You jam it in and you go into the next one. But if I'm just driving around the street and enjoying my car on a pretty day, being a little sporty, I'm gonna be nice because I don't have to save that couple hundredths of a second from the shift. And it's just nice, the transmission. It's just nicer to everything. So I'm just throwing that out there. But for a young person getting good at driving stick, you want to be good at different speeds, different tempos. It's just sort of like in music. If you have a metronome, what tempo are you driving to? So if I'm just enjoying my own day, you know, you got to pick a tempo. You know, are you just getting somewhere? Are you being lazy? Just commuting? Like, okay, if I'm just being really lazy and commuting, here I am, no big deal, going. Maybe I've got, you know, somebody in the car that doesn't want to be all sporty, and this is my tempo. Real chill. Not banging the clutch, just doing my thing. But if I want to speed up the tempo, you speed up the tempo. And that was a little harsh on the clutch out. It's harsh. And I don't like being that harsh on the car. Now, so downshifting and toe heel. I'm sorry you guys can't see this. I decided to do this video a little impromptu today. So the whole thing about toe heel downshifting is very important in braking, and I use it at all times, even driving on the street normally, because it's the best way to drive. It's the only way to drive, in my opinion. And the thing of it is, the purpose of toe heel downshifting is so you can brake with your right foot, and if you don't blip the throttle, that means you have to downshift like this, and it upsets the car. You suddenly braking more with the rear wheels. So if you're braking really hard and you're coming up to a corner or trail braking, and you don't blip the throttle and rev match, you let out the clutch and you haven't rev match, you're gonna send a lot more braking torque to the rear wheels, at which point you can upset the car and potentially lose it. When I was, gosh, I was probably like 17 or 18, I darn near wrecked an 80s V8 Camaro by doing that, because the brake pedal was low and I couldn't toe heel effectively. And instead of just keeping the clutch in or waiting until I got through the corner, I went back to my normal thing of kind of race driving, and I let the clutch out like an idiot, even though I didn't blip the throttle, and it just sent the car dead sideways, and I nearly wrecked it on these country roads. It wasn't that good of a Camaro in terms of the suspension. So I just want to make mention of that. So toe heel downshifting, each car is different. If your brake pedal's low, sometimes the spacing is bad, and that's why you want to get different pedals, so that you can push the brake pedal a little bit, but still be able to use the side of your foot to toe heel. And it's nice if you can be able to do that when you're braking gently. Now, right now, I'm actually gonna use this, in this car with the stock pedals, I actually have to push the brake pedal and use literally the side of my foot. I'm literally using the side of my shoe to hit the gas pedal. It's not ideal. If I was gonna be track daying this or something like this and I was really pushing hard on the brake pedal, that would not work. And frankly, if I'm really doing it sometimes in the morning and I haven't like stretched or something and I'm getting old, I'll start getting a Charlie burst. So that's just something to think about. But the biggest thing about driving a manual transmission, and tips I can give any young people out there starting, is don't let idiots tell you what to do. It's really simple. Slip the clutch the least amount possible, that you don't stall the car and you're not spinning the tires if you don't want to. Another note, tires grip the most when they are just barely spinning. Like if you feel like your tires are grinding, but not like spinning, you're not blowing the tires off, they're just like grinding just a little bit more, that way you know you're right at the limit of adhesion, and that's where you're gonna get the best acceleration. So if you get it to where you get the clutch out to where it's just starting to grind and spin the whole way, and you can do that, that's where you get your best acceleration, okay? I'm not a burnout guy. I don't normally do donuts because who wants to just trash equipment? I'm not actually rich, so just throwing that out there. But slip your clutch the least amount possible without stalling it. Yeah, I know if you're stopped on a hillside, that can be daunting, so you hold your parking brake up and then you can get your clutch out and go real quick. As you get better, you'll be speedy and you won't need to do that. So don't let that scare you. Driving stick is a lot of fun. I would be bored out of my mind driving an automatic, even if it was a cool car. It just is. And this 944, honestly, not a fast car. And frankly, it's a beautiful sunny day. I could be driving my Viper if I wanted to, but I have a great time driving this. And if it was automatic, no way. I wouldn't be driving it. This makes it fun and enjoyable. And the other great thing about a stick shift, and this is for some parents out there, It is so much easier to not get speeding tickets in a stick shift car. Because, for instance, right now, it's 35 miles an hour. I'm in 4th gear. I'm doing 35. If I put my foot down, I don't go that much faster. You know how fast you're going in a stick shift car. So, it's easier to not get a ticket. Frankly, I get so bored in a paddle shifted car, an automatic car, I end up speeding, so I'm not bored. So that's just something to throw out there. And it's fun because it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you doing something, and it makes it all more fun. So I hope this is just a little bit of tidbit to inspire you guys to get better at driving stick yourself. You want to match those RPMs. You want to be nice to your gearbox. Always be thinking about your clutch. Be thinking about your transmission. Be thinking of your timing. If you're jamming and forcing and banging, and you're hearing clunking and banging and undulations and things, you're probably not driving that well. So just figure out your timing. Figure out if you're not releasing the clutch fast enough, you're not pushing the pedal fast enough, you're doing it too quick, too slow, your timing. It's a lot like playing a musical instrument or dancing. So I hope you guys have fun. As a last thank you, the kind gentleman who sent me the replacement shifter with the nice linear bearings in them, not linear, excuse me, radial bearings, as well as the short shift kit on the transaxle. I got it in and it's wonderful. So thank you very much, sir. The 944, I believe it's 944 online where you can get those kits, makes it very much more enjoyable. So I hope you guys get out there, go drive some stick shift cars, dump those stupid automatics, lame! And if you can't find anybody to teach you, then I guess I'll just have to make a new video and you have to teach yourself. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good day.
I hope you enjoyed today's video, and naturally that you will subscribe, but please click that bell so I can continue to bring you wholesome and entertaining automotive content. Also, a huge thanks to Avalon King ceramic coating. They're supporting this channel and making this all possible. But more importantly, I'm looking forward to using it on all of my vehicles, including my old dirt bike. Ceramic coating bonds directly to the surface of your paint, trim, and plastics to give a long-lasting shine that beats all waxes. It lasts for years and it's easy to maintain. I've got it on my Viper right now and my car has never looked this good. So give them a try. Again, thanks for watching and I look forward to see you next time.